Season 3's here. What's the meta looking like? Surprisingly, there is a lot of weapons that are viable and could be your new favorite weapon. Today, we're gonna run down my pick here for the top 10 weapons within Season 3 in Warzone. So as we go along, let me know your thoughts down below. Do you agree with this list? Is there any weapon you think deserves to be in this top 10? Whatever it is, feel free to let me know your thoughts. As well, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you stay up to date with all things Warzone, Cold War, and anything COD related. We're on that road to 500,000. Still feels weird to say, but if you're interested in joining the community and staying up to date, I'd love to have you. And finally, check out my friends over at Gamer Advantage, best blue light glasses on the market. I swear by them. So if you want to protect your eyes while gaming, head on over to the link in the description below. Maybe use code ESPRESSO if you want to pick something up. But anyways, let's talk about the weapons that you should be using within Season 3. So the nice part here about this air quote meta, if we want to call it that, and I say that loosely more so just to define the term for the weapons that are viable here within Warzone, I actually think this might be one of the best air quote metas we've had in a while, because 10 weapons here are actually all viable, and it's not until the very end of this list that you'll see some things that may not stack up entirely one-to-one, but you have a very good handful of weapons that can absolutely get the job done in almost any situation you need. It's not something that right now we're only gravitating towards 1 to 3 weapons like we were with the FFAR, AUG, and M16. But to start out, I do want to talk about what I think is still the best weapon here for this at long and medium range, that being the CR56 AMAX. Now, we've talked about the CR56 AMAX quite a few times, so we'll breeze past this one. It's been a dominant weapon since its introduction in, I think, Season 5. But for this, I end up running the monolithic suppressor, the Zodiac barrel, the VLK 3x optic, the Commando foregrip, and the 45 round mags. Now, admittedly, I do jump back and forth between the Commando and the Merc foregrip as well, because that Merc foregrip gives you additional recoil control, which is where you start to see that weapon really tail off in some of the downsides of the weapon. It's incredible for that damage and fire rate, but the mitigation comes in the way of the recoil and the recenter speed. So Merc foregrip I do often run as well, but either of those works out perfectly. This is a weapon that will absolutely shred through everybody, but it might be on the chopping block. So if you want to use a dominant weapon while it's still around, Raven has said that they're looking at tuning this weapon coming very soon. So use it while you can. Next up is one that has been a newer introduction into the air quote meta, and is one that I am loving right now. This, I kind of use it as a sort of FFAR replacement, but at the same time, I can get off mid-range gunfights as well with relative ease, that being the FARA 83. Now, the FARA 83, I end up running the GRU suppressor, the 19.5-inch Liberator barrel, the KGB skeletal stock, the Spetsnaz grip, and the 50-round mag as well. I'll be totally honest with you though, absolutely you can run the Spetsnaz RPK barrel that gives you extra damage range, bullet velocity, and strafe speed for a little bit of a con of added recoil on the vertical and horizontal axis. But truth be told, I'm only running that Liberator barrel because it fits with the blueprint that I have with it. But especially if you want to use this for something that is up close, that strafe speed is absolutely crucial. So I'd highly recommend that RPK barrel. But honestly, the FARA 83 might be one of my favorite all-around weapons right now. It can get the job done in close quarters, or again, at medium range even, it'll do that. Normally, I'll pair that with my Kar 98K here at this, which we'll talk about in a little bit. It's the same Kar 98K build that we've had for ages, so nothing too crazy there. But the next weapon up on the list is, again, another one here introduced into that viable weapons list that we want to talk about within Warzone, that being the LC10. Especially now that this is a ground loot weapon, it's definitely something you can absolutely do well with right off the rip, but if you end up getting it in your loadout, you absolutely want to customize this out so that you have that ability to pack a punch in that more micro form of an SMG. For this, I end up running the Agency Suppressor, the Task Force Barrel, the SAS Combat Stock, the Field Agent Grip, and the 55 round mag. We're not going with the 52 round speed mag because that hurts our ADS a little bit further, but this is absolutely one that has kind of grown on me, and as right now, it stands as probably one of the better SMGs for close quarters play. It's got a nice rate of fire, decent damage output for an SMG, and is incredibly mobile. So this is absolutely something you'll want to run with, say for medium to long range. I end up usually running it with the CR56 AMAX on that same build that we just mentioned, but it is phenomenal. Give it a try. One that has definitely grown on me as well, this next weapon up on deck here, is that of the AK-47. Before this update for Season 3, it was good by all accounts statistically, but it was not good when you tried to use it, mainly because of the recoil kick that it ended up having. It just really wasn't worth it for the DPS, and the control of it was much harder to manage than, say, something like the CR56 AMAX, which in terms of damage and everything outclassed it, so you really had no reason to end up using it. But if you do end up running the Cold War AK-47, this actually was fixed out, so the recoil is a little bit easier to manage now. For this, I end up running the GRU suppressor, the VDV reinforced forced barrel, the skeletal stock for a little bit more of that mobility, the Spetsnaz grip, and then I run the 60-round magazine as well. For this, I'll end up running it again kind of like how I ran the FFAR in the past. A little bit more close quarters, but also I can get the job done at somewhat medium range. Not necessarily too long range, but you can absolutely get the job done. So for that, because we are covering that close to medium range, I do normally run that with the Kar 98K build, which we'll talk about in a second. Next weapon up on deck is one that you may seem familiar with because it isn't quite out of the meta just yet. This one being the M16. The burst meta is still kind of alive. It's not necessarily the best option you have here in terms of packing a punch with your gunfights, but if you want something familiar, want something still relatively easy to manage, the M16 can absolutely do it. You're just going to see that time between the bursts is absolutely apparent, and as is that neck damage multiplier being absolutely cut at the knees from 1.8 to 1.1. You're going to need to hit a lot more shots or be a lot more accurate while not having as fast the rate of fire for that bullet output. So if you can manage that kind of stuff, you're absolutely golden still, and this is still a very good weapon to use, to which if you do decide to run it, I'd recommend the agency suppressor, the strike team barrel, the axial arms 3x optic, the field agent foregrip, and the 45 round mag, so that we don't lose out on anything in terms of that ADS speed. But again, it's still absolutely something that can pack a punch, so if you want to play around with it, you still can't really go too wrong with it. The AUG though, a little bit past the point of no return. Talking about weapons that did get adjusted but still are viable is that of the FFAR. The most recent patch with Season 3 ended up decreasing the max damage by 3 damage points per shot, decreased the max damage range by 15%, and slightly adjusted the damage multipliers for the neck and the upper torso. So on paper, it is absolutely something that is a lot of changes done to it, but if you can get over those things and you can end up getting your gun up a little bit earlier than you would if you just try to snap to it, you can still absolutely pack a punch with this thing, to which I'd normally run the agency suppressor, the ranger barrel for the bullet velocity. I'm kind of a weirdo with that. I know that's not necessarily everybody's favorite barrel, but to me it works out pretty well. The raider stock for that increased ADS firing move speed, aiming walking move speed, and the sprint to fire time, the 50 round mag, and I still like the SFOD speed grip if I'm honest with you, increasing that sprinting move speed and horizontal recoil control for a slight sacrifice in regular movement speed. But again, even though this one was adjusted, it's still pretty solid. Next weapon up on deck is another one that was good, but now it's definitely solidified itself, I think, in the top 10 with so much versatility available through all these weapons, that being the Bullfrog. Now, the Bullfrog is one that has a naturally high ammo capacity. You can absolutely modify it a little further to have all the way up to an 85 round mag. A little bit overkill if you ask me, but it's mobile, it packs a punch, has a decent fire rate and damage output, so it's absolutely something worth running in close quarters. For this, I end up running the GRU suppressor, the task force barrel, the KGB skeletal stock, the serpent wrap since grips are now actually fixed in some regard, and then the Spetsnaz grip as well for a little bit more control with that grip. The movement speed with this is phenomenal, so I'll end up usually running this with like the M16 or something like that, which is a little bit more suited for longer range so that I cover kind of all the bases, but at the same time, I'm still pretty quick on my feet. Absolutely worth checking out if you have not done so already. But while we talk about weapons that are pretty good with move speed, the MAC-10 is absolutely still in the top 10 of the meta, if you ask me. For this, I actually have recently switched out my build for this so that it's full-on mobility. It's something that is the fastest build you can have for it and still packs a punch, because if you're looking at the MAC-10, there is really no recoil with it. It's absolutely a laser pointer, so up close, you're gonna get the job done. For this, I end up running the Task Force barrel, the Tiger Team Spotlight for that added movement speed and aiming walking movement speed, the Raider stock, again, for more mobility, the 50 round drum mag so that we don't lose anything in terms of ADS speed, and then also the Striker grip for more movement speed and hip fire accuracy. So a little bit of different attachments than you may be used to with some of the other builds we've gone over, but this one, if you want to be mobile, if you want to be fast on your feet, this is absolutely the class to do it with. The final weapon that we'll talk about in terms of primaries that aren't necessarily for long range, because I default to at long range really just one weapon build in particular. The final weapon we'll talk about is one that I'm still up in the air on. It's on the inside looking out, if you ask me, that being the MP5 from Cold War though. This, I again try and max it out for a little bit more mobility, but also still packing a punch where possible. For this, I end up running the Agency Suppressor, the Reinforced Heavy Barrel, the Mounted Flashlight for that extra movement speed and walking movement speed, the No Stock for added sprint to fire time, and then the 40 round drum mag as well. Problem with this though is that it doesn't pack enough punch if you need to get into a situation with a lot of engagements all in one go. I had an engagement yesterday that I was just full tilt. It had me livid. We jumped down from top summit, down to one of the double whites in the basin. Lazy and I ended up pushing that. He died to them earlier, so he knew it was in there. And sure enough, there were 4 players camping this upper portion of Double White with restock claymores, so probably 8 of them in the building. And with 40 rounds, I couldn't take out 4. I think I knocked 2, maybe 3, and then got taken out. So, unfortunately, again, when it comes down to it, it's very good in some engagements, but it just might not get the job done overall. The final weapon we'll talk about here that is absolutely still my favorite and rounds out this top 10 is the Kar 98K. If you want a long-range gun, this is absolutely the one that will get the job done for you. The Tundra is good, the HDR is good, but if you want to be a little bit more mobile, you want to be able to hit those shots, get in and out of engagements fast, the Kar 98K is absolutely the one for you. For the Kar 98K, I usually end up running on this, the Monolithic Suppressor, the SynGuard Customs 27.6-inch barrel, the TAC Laser, the Sniper Scope, and the stippled grip tape. Again, this kind of just maxing out a build used for quick scoping, getting on target faster than any other sniper can, and realistically, you're already maxing out your ADS, so if you don't want to use stippled grip tape, you can end up throwing on, say, the FTAC Sport stock for that ADS speed. Those are interchangeable because, again, they hit that ceiling for the ADS time, but it's absolutely something that if you're a marksman, you want to get in and out of engagements, absolutely the build for you. But that said, that rounds out the top 10 weapons here within Warzone Season 3 as of right now. I'm sure as time goes on, a more clearly defined meta does come up, but for the time being, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm happy with this. I am happy that we have 10 weapons that only when you get down to that like 8, 9, and 10 are there points where you're just like, this might be outclassed by another weapon. I love that we have that versatility now in terms of using multiple different weapons. So that's where we're at here with this. I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback down in the comment section down below. What do you guys think of this? Are you guys liking the meta so far? Is there any build that you guys would like to add to the list here of top 10 that you think should be in here? Whatever it is, feel free to let me know your thoughts. But as well, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so it's a single thing running all things Warzone, Cold War, anything COD related. We're on that road to 500,000. Still feels so weird to say. And if you guys do want to pick up the Battle Pass or any other shop items within Warzone or Cold War, use creator code Espresso if you guys are interested in helping out the channel a little further. I'd love to shout out some of your generous support, so tweet me a picture if you do. But if you want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, those are the best places to get content on YouTube. Probably live on both those. So if you want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is down there in the description below. That said, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.